Good morning. I'm Evan Sullivan.
And I'm Carol McNeil. Welcome to the second hour of CBC News Sunday. Wednesday marked the 30th anniversary of the Iranian Revolution. Back in 1979, Iran shook off the rule of the American-installed Shah and transformed into an Islamic republic. But 30 years of Muslim rule is just a drop in the bucket for one of Iran's religious minorities. As producer Bauman Kalbazi reports, this unlikely group of outsiders has endured many centuries of regime changes.
Iran, an ancient nation, a staunchly Islamic state. Symbols of the faith are everywhere. But on the streets of Tehran, in the shops and cafes, followers of another ancient faith, indistinguishable until called to prayer.
In our prayer, 3 times a day, we pray for Israel, for construction of our holy temple, for rebuilding of Jerusalem and governing peace in that holy land.
That's right, here in the heart of Iran, prayers for the Jewish state. 25,000 Jews call this land home. It's the largest Jewish population in the Middle East outside of Israel, living and praying as they have for well over 2,000 years. Arash Abai is the rabbi at one of Iran's biggest synagogues.
Our roots of living in this country is very, very old. Even we are older than Muslims in this country.
To this day, on carpets and paintings, the Jews of Iran continue to credit the King of Persia and Esther, an influential lady in his palace, with their liberation from slavery.
King Cyrus, who was ruling Iran or Old Persia, helped them to conquer again the Jerusalem and Israel and return and rebuild their second holy temple. Since then, some of Jews prefer to remain in this country as their homeland and continue living.
When the 1979 revolution took place, many in the Jewish community left Iran. Today, their numbers are 1/10 of what it was once before. But if the everyday prayer in this old synagogue is any indication, the Jewish community has maintained its ties with the ancient homeland. And despite the government's stance on Israel, they continue to play an important role in this society.
Today, around Iran's capital, a discreet Jewish presence continues, a delicate balance between personal faith and everyday life in a modern Islamic nation. In Tehran's Grand Bazaar, Jewish shopkeeper Baba Mashallah. I've owned this shop for 30 years now, and we are like brothers with my fellow Muslim merchants. I go to Israel to see my children, but I always come back home. Inside this building, a private Jewish community center, a gym, a library, where pictures of Ayatollah Khomeini sit next to pictures of Moses. Dr. Siamak Mursadeh is the only Jewish member of the Iranian parliament. He says the Iranian Jewish community walks a fine line in a country where the president has called for Israel to be wiped off the map and described the Holocaust as a myth.
We do not have any specific organized anti-Semitic phenomena in Iran. We don't have organized anti-Semitic movement in Iran. We are in a good condition in Iran. We have good relationship with government and we are not in a great danger.
Most Iranian Jews we talk to agree, but say that subtle discrimination does exist, from inheritance law to the workplace to representation in government.
On the other hand, there are some difficulty for Jewish people to reach the higher degrees in the governmental offices. It's not impossible, somewhat harder, and I want to change it and facilitate employment of Jewish people in governmental estate.
A push for integration, like that found in Tehran's only Jewish hospital. Fangiz Hasidim is the hospital's chief administrator.
Whoever comes to this hospital, from the door of this hospital, we never ask him, what's your idea, what's your religion? What we ask, what's your pain or what you are suffering from, and we are doing our best to treat them and anyhow send them home in whole health and happiness.
Rabbi Abai says it goes beyond working together to a sense of identity.
Jews have been adapted themselves with the different conditions of this country, and because of this old generation, we can say that Iranian Jews are more Iranian than being Jews.
For the Jews of Iran, this is not just a prayer, but an acknowledgement of their complex identity in a region where nationalism and faith form a volatile mix. Bahman Kalbasi, CBC News, Tehran.
By the way, Bahman Kalbasi, who used to work on our show, that he brought you that story, was actually born 30 years ago this week in Iran. He was celebrated as a revolutionary baby. Then he himself became a radical. He was arrested and he moved to Canada. But since producing that story, he's been hired by BBC Persia, which is a new BBC station, and he now reports for BBC Persia out of Washington. Now, of course, the relationship between Tehran and Washington has been a huge developing story this week. For the first time since the revolution, Iran and the United States are making conciliatory diplomatic moves. Iran actually sent official congratulations when Barack Obama became the new president, and this week Obama spoke, as he had during the campaign, about opening a dialogue with Iran. So what are the implications of a warming of this relationship? Nader Hashemani is a professor of Middle East and Islamic politics at the University of Colorado. He joins us from Denver. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
And Mohammed Tavakoli is a professor of history at the University of Toronto. He joins us from Toronto. Thank you for being here as well.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Nader, tell me what has precipitated these extraordinary developments this week as the two governments begin talking. What's going on here?
Well, relationships have been strained for the last